All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is David Patrick Carey with Church of the Eternal Logos, and today I want to talk to you guys. Well, really, we're going to let Abbot Tryphon do a lot of talking. So FYI, Abbot Tryphon is not live with me, but I have a couple clips from a presentation he did, and I've talked about these stories in previous streams. And so I thought, in celebration of his new participation with Patristic Faith, we are going to talk a little bit about Patristic Faith and give a special shout out to Father Deacon Dr. Ananias. Shout out to the fellow apologists, Jay Dyer, myself, Brother Augustine, Father Peter Hears, Father Spiridon Bailey, all of which are now part of, we're sort of consolidating our apologetic efforts into a new organization known as Patristic Faith. And so I want to talk to you guys a little bit about that to open up here. And yesterday it was announced that Abbot Tryphon is joining the ranks with us. And so we all probably already aware that he had been kicked off. He'd been deplatformed from Ancient Faith Radio. And there had been a few things going on at Ancient Faith Radio regarding maybe a little bit more liberal ideas becoming more normalized. Certainly speaking more traditional beliefs about Orthodoxy are now becoming deemed political. And so they deplatformed Abbot Tryphon. And he is now with us over at Patristic Faith. And so here, let me open this up right here. Shout out to Chase and helping set up this beautiful website on Patristic Faith. But here it is, Abbot Tryphon. Abbot Tryphon is the abbot of the monastery of All-Merciful Savior, which was established in 1986 over on Vashon Island in Washington. And so you guys should check this site out, Patristic Faith. If you have not, here, let me copy and paste over here. So this is, and really major thank you goes out to Father Deacon Dr. Ananias for setting all this up. And again, special shout out to our good ortho brother Chase for putting all this together. But you can see we got Abbot Tryphon, we got David the Real Medwhite, we got myself, we have Father Deacon Dr. Ananias, we have Father John Whitford, we have Father Spiridon Bailey, we have Jay Dyer, Michael Witkoff, and that's just where we're at right now, and I'm sure it's going to grow. So I'm really excited to be a part of this new team, this new attempt to sort of normalize a new form of Orthodox apologetics online, and with the very notable and incredible clergy that is participating in this, again, with people like Father Deacon and Jay Dyer. I'm honored to be a part of it along with Witkoff, to try to defend the faith in the 21st century, and who knows what's ahead of us. But I certainly think what we're doing is putting together a great team, and the future is very bright. So make sure, guys, add this to your web browser, patristicfaith.com, patristicfaith.com. And, what is Patristic Faith about? Well, in a postmodern, neo-Gnostic, technocratic age of globalism, a world, that's called after God, Christians find themselves in a perilous situation that is hostile to tradition. That is certainly the case. And so, wonderful resource here again, and we're going to start one of the things then Orthodox spirituality, Orthodox theology, certainly more and more content is going to become available over on the Patristic Faith website. And so one of the things that I've been thinking about, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the Fediverse. And the possibilities are endless for the future. And so in the Fediverse, this is a decentralized sort of dimension of the internet, of content posting, peer-to-peer collaboration or sharing, kind of like BitChute, that type of stuff. And I am wanting to do one of the things that I'll be moving forward on in 2022 is adding a Fediverse, a federated page to my website where when I live stream like I'm doing right now, you can go to the website and you can watch that live stream over on PeerTube, which is, again, a sort of YouTube form over in the Fediverse. And so these videos can never be deplatformed. They can never be taken down. And the interesting thing about the Fediverse is you can build a sort of federation with other content creators. And so something like Patristic Faith is theoretically, it could be a hub where if I have my federated PeerTube page over on my website and Jay Dyer has his and Father Deacon has his and Witkoff has his and Abbot Tryphon, all these different people, that they could be on the Patristic Faith, they could have one site, one video site that then all those videos are there easily. And you don't have to upload videos all the time because we really need to start planning on YouTube and some of these centralized platforms not being available for us in the future. And so I think thinking about the Fediverse, thinking about building a sort of federated Orthodox apologetic hub over in the decentralized dimension of the internet, I think this is a really a real great possibility for us, because one of the things I've talked about before is that this is the first time that Orthodoxy is really becoming quote unquote normalized. Orthodoxy is one of the last faiths to even come to America. And so many of us, and even the Christians, they've never even heard of Orthodoxy. And so we're in a unique stage really in history and Orthodox apologetics that with the internet, we can talk about Orthodoxy for the first time, that no matter where you're at, no matter what culture you grew up in, no matter what language you speak, that you can begin to learn about what we believe to be the true church, the church founded by Jesus Christ, the church founded by the apostles, the true Orthodox theology, things like theosis, things like the energy essence distinction, that outside of the Orthodox context, you're going to be missing so much of this. And so I think trying to envision moving into this new decade, again, as they're wanting to reset the world, maybe we can reset the way Orthodoxy does its apologetics. And so instead of moving through these more centralized platforms that are dependent upon who knows what donation money, i.e. potentially Ancient Faith Radio, depending more on these sort of antiquated understandings of the internet and information sharing, that we can jump ahead, we can get great clergy, we can get great apologetics, great apologists, and begin to federate our content. And so when I stream out right now, I'm streaming out to YouTube, I'm streaming out to Facebook, Twitter, all these different sites, Twitch, DLive, that I could add the key stream to PeerTube, to the sort of federated page, and so we could be live right now, and that stream could never ever be deplatformed. And that's the goal, one of the goals for my website that I want to do moving forward. And so I think Patristic Faith and the work that Chase and the work that Father Deacon and all the apologists that have jumped on board, that this is a great opportunity. And so I couldn't thank Father Deacon enough for the effort he's put in and the opportunity he's really building for the future of Orthodoxy and the defense of Orthodoxy online. And so in this stream, what I want to do then is talk a lot about Abbot Tryphon. And so obviously Abbot Tryphon is he is the newest member to the team. And so this is Abbot Tryphon's page, but I want to tell you guys to go check out the monastery page that he has created, the website. So the VashonMonks.com. For those of you, I've told you about this prayer rope. I've told you that I wear it now on my wrist all the time, and it's been great. It's been a great Orthodox reminder. It's been a great spiritual tool, that it's not the prayer rope isn't something that's I do once in a while. It's always on my wrist. It's always there with me. And I got this smaller prayer rope from his website. And so you can do that right here. So if you go to All-Merciful Savior Monastery or VashonMonks.com store here, let me share this link with you guys. in the live chat that you can go get yourself a prayer rope, and he has great coffee. And so this is, again, I wanted to promote some of the Abbot Tryphon stuff. So I got his prayer rope that I got from Vashon monks and some coffee right here in my Yeti. So I'm going to be sipping on my coffee as we actually dive into some incredible stories Abbot Tryphon shares about living the faith, the Orthodox life. And I think this is, in a way, maybe can get overlooked with all of our apologetics, including myself for sure, is that my content is so heady, it's intellectual, it's academic. And where I think I fall short is at least all of us fall short in some degree, and something we can all try to work better at is our lives being a sort of apologetic itself, and how we can be Christ in the midst. We can be Christ incarnated through our lives in the way that we relate to other people. And so we have some great stories from Abbot Tryphon that we're going to be getting into that I'd love to share with you guys. I want to say that they have great coffee. And so let me see, all coffee blends here. I got the Abbot's Choice here, and I do have the 5-pound bag. This option right here, I have the 5-pound bag, but I also got as a Christmas gift this Christmas blend that I'm going to be giving to some friends. So get you guys yourself some coffee. Support the monks. Support an Orthodox monastery here in the U.S. Get yourself a prayer rope. You know, this is the prayer rope. They're handmade there at the monastery, and this is the one that I got right here. This is a 50-knot Athonite-style prayer rope. It's $25. Handmade there at the monastery. This is the exact one I have. I love it. I love it. I always have it on my wrist. I use it. I say the Jesus prayer and use this much more frequently than I did when it wasn't on my wrist. When I have the wool-style prayer rope over here on the icon, but this the one that they make there, I don't know if it's a nylon, but it doesn't unfrizzle like the wool does. I love it. I always have it on my wrist, especially when I'm working, when I'm writing, when I'm doing my research. It's just a great little spiritual tool to have right there. So you can do that. Again, go to vashonmonks.com. This is Abbot Tryphon's website. You can get coffee. I also have his coffee. Again, that's what I'm sipping on during today's stream. And they have different types. So you can get the 33 knot. You can get the 300 wool knot. I personally do really like their Athonite style prayer ropes. But whatever you prefer, maybe you prefer more the bracelet style, the smaller 33 knot, whatever you prefer. Again, they're handmade. It's a great way to help out a monastery, and they got coffee mugs. They got other stuff that you could purchase there over at the site. And so one of the things that I wanted to also mention is, as we dive into Abbot Tryphon's presentation today, because I got these two, we're going to be listening to these two. It's a part 1, part 2, and we're going to be listening to as much as we can get into. But I've noticed there's something I wanted to say that I've noticed very frequently, and much more frequently than I maybe would have suspected, let's say a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, when I started this Church of the Eternal Logos journey, is how many people I've met and talked to who have fallen away from orthodoxy. And that I wanted to talk a little bit about consumerism, consumeristic spirituality, and orthodoxy, because I don't think orthodoxy plays real well with the tendencies to have a sort of consumeristic spirituality, the smorgasbord of spiritual identities, right? And that, and this isn't true for, obviously, there's so many people that are still here. A lot of you guys here in the live chat and watching this stream, but I'm sure some of you have noticed the same tendency. Is that I've met a few people that were very fervent. They're very eager into their faith when they first got into orthodoxy, and then it began to dissipate. And then they go back to other belief systems. They revert back to whatever is interesting to them the most, the New Age, maybe more psychedelic stuff. Perennialism, I've noticed, is one that catches people because you can't be Orthodox and be a perennialist. And especially just posting that kind of stuff online, you're going to get criticized, by other brothers and sisters. And so I wanted to speak a little bit about consumerism and orthodoxy and how orthodoxy is a lifestyle. And that's what we're really going to be hitting at with the stories, the life, and the wisdom that we're going to listen to from Abbot Tryphon, is that orthodoxy is a lifestyle. It's way more, and that's why I don't think it plays well in regards to a consumeristic identity. It's not something you can just put on for Sunday, and there's plenty of people who do, so I don't mean to say that, everybody who's Orthodox. I'm just saying, generally speaking, for younger people who are searching for identity, which is the case for a lot of people right now, that Orthodoxy is way more labor-intensive. It's going to ask for you to struggle. It's going to ask for you to dive deeper. And that means reading Scripture, and that means not having your own interpretation, but submitting to tradition, submitting to Orthodox theology. That also means submitting to authority. One of the things that I noticed, it didn't take a while until I had a really great priest. Shout out to Father Athanasius. I love you. I love my priest. And when I first began this Orthodox journey, kissing the hand of the priest was a little bit of a difficulty. And this was this American individualistic pride. Why would I submit myself to another man? And it was, again, the more you get into the spiritual life, the more these things sort of dissipate. And submitting myself to authority, Orthodox authority, became easier and easier. At the same time, and many of our great apologists, even there over at patristicfaith.com, make sure you go over and check out patristicfaith.com. Many of our great apologists have aided us in better understanding the details of our theology and in laying down the specifics, differentiating us from many of the other people. But living the spiritual life is one of the biggest things about this Orthodox journey, is that you really have to take it on board. It can't just be a concept. It can't just be a sort of online keyboard warrior. You have to go to a church. You have to start praying. You have to maybe take things a little bit more seriously. And as you do that, the whole sort of Orthodox life, it opens up. And so it's like orthodoxy it's not as easy as a consumeristic identity that I think some of the other faiths, certainly the Eastern spirituality, the New Age, even some of the more contemporary modernistic forms of Christianity, it's very consumeristic. You can just purchase it, you can put it on, and it's your identity, right? You're a trad Christian or whatever it is that you do online, and maybe and then your spirituality is sort of relegated to Sunday morning. Orthodoxy is more than that. And at the same time, because it's more than that, it's so much more rewarding. And again, patristic faith has incredible apologists that help us better understand the unique faith and theology that orthodoxy gives us. And living that out, one of the big things I notice is so many, or not so many, but I don't want to be overgeneralistic, but I've talked to many people who start getting into the Orthodox thing and even start debating other people online. And I don't mean any of our apologists. I mean general folk still getting into all this stuff. And they don't even pray frequently. They don't even pray regularly. And it is like, well, this needs to really be a part of your life. And that orthodoxy is about theosis. And theosis is about becoming little Christ. That's what a Christian is. It's a little Christ. And that's what we're called to do. And that's one of the reasons that I think orthodoxy just it's not as lendable to the consumeristic mentality as some of these other world religions or some of these other spiritual practices that are so popular right now. And so I think that's a great thing. But I think we've all probably seen how it's very easy for people to get excited about orthodoxy. They sort of join into all this online stuff, and then they retreat back because it's the real deal and you're going to be attacked. This is one of the things that when I talk to people one-on-one and they're getting into Orthodoxy, or they begin going to a church for the first time, I tell them so straightforwardly that, brother, sister, if you're going to start going to Orthodox churches and parishes and you're going to start reading and you're going to start learning about theology and you're going to start devouring a lot of the content that's available for us, understand that this is a real spiritual war. And things are about to occur in your life that are going to try to pull you from this journey. And if we're sincere and if we're persistent, we'll get through that. If we're only here at a sort of superficial level, I think a lot of us can get swept away. And my journey into Orthodoxy was one that was an ebb and flow. I would be very interested, and then again, old practices, things would happen, and then it may pull you back. But the consistent, persistent desire to learn more, to grow, to take it seriously, it only becomes more and more rewarding. So I just wanted to say that for anybody who's getting into the Orthodoxy for the first time, that no, it's going to get difficult. And know that this isn't just a consumeristic practice. This isn't something where you just buy a T-shirt or you beat people down with the baton of Orthodox theology, because it is true. We are the true church. We are the historical church, but it's more than that. And so it's not just a consumeristic identity. It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. And so I just wanted to share that with people before we dive into some of the wisdom of Abbot Tryphon. But before I get into there, guys, please, if you are interested in supporting Church of the Eternal Logos, thank you to everybody who has gone over to the website and become a website member. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Shout out to everybody. I was at the book club last night. We had a great time talking about the Master and Margarita, chapters 6 through 12. We'll be diving into chapters 13 through 18 next. So shout out to everybody. We had a great time. And if anybody be interested in setting up a one-on-one for tomorrow, we got a few slots still open. You can purchase that with that link right there. So without further ado, guys, let's get into what I wanted to show you. Today's going to be a fun stream. It's not going to be super heady. It's going to be life stories with Abbot Tryphon, and I can't wait to share some of this stuff with you because, and again, if you guys want to watch the whole video, because we're not going to watch the whole thing, if you would like to do that, here's the link for part 1, and then here's the link for part 2. We're going to be watching about half of each today. And I have it sped up to 1.25 just so we can get through it a little bit quicker. But some of these stories really, really touched me. And that's what I wanted to share with it, because what I love about Abbot Tryphon is not for the reasons why I love Jay Dyer. I love listening to Jay Dyer because of his biblical recall, his philosophical background, the nuanced and detailed sort of inquiries into the Orthodox theology and how it relates to Catholicism and Protestantism and other forms of divine simplicity. But the reason why I love Abbot Tryphon is really for his stories about living orthodoxy, living that out as a practice. And this is where, again, I feel like I can do a lot better job. I like to go back and forth. I'm like Dyer. I like to debate. I like to, if somebody says something, I like to come back at them a little sharp. And so living a more merciful and compassionate Orthodox life, that is more challenging for me than just getting into my books, diving into things, combating people, going back and forth. And so that's what today's stream is going to be about, is what does it look like? How can we learn some lessons about living the Orthodox faith? And I think nobody is better at talking about this in a very fun, jovial, humorous way than Abbot Tryphon. So without further ado, please smash that like, guys. Smash that like. Also, super chat using the Streamlabs link if you guys can. And so, without further ado, let's just get into what I want talk. So let's have Abbot Tryphon talk to us a little bit. So where we're going to start up the conversation in part one is really what he's just been talking to people about, is this instance where he was at a monastery. I forget where he was, but he was at a monastery, and a young man came, and he said he was going to a Lutheran Bible college, and that he was going to become a Lutheran pastor. And Abbot Tryphon said, "No, you're not. You've experienced Orthodoxy. You're going to become Orthodox." And he kind of shrugged it off, and eventually, I think a couple years later or so, he had become Orthodox. And he was at a church, and he was part of the parish council, and I guess he had on his computer, this is in the state of Washington, I believe, he had pro-cannabis legalization and an LGBTQ sticker on his computer. And when the priest had seen that, especially in the council meeting, they excommunicated him. They kicked him out. And Abbot Tryphon was talking about how this was a young man who had just come to Orthodoxy that was still in this process of shedding many of the things that we bring to it that we have to get rid of, and that if we as Orthodox, or this parish particularly, could have just been more patient and directed him to eventually see how these things are incompatible with our Orthodox faith, he wouldn't have been so sour. That him and his fiancée, this young man, basically gave up on Orthodoxy to never return again. And so this is where we're picking up. He just finished this story that I just shared with you guys, and we're going to kind of move through the rest of this lecture, this presentation, and then we're going to listen to some of the stories in part two. And that's really going to be today. So again, if you guys want to share some stories, you want to appreciate the stream, feel free to throw in a super chat, and I'll read all those at the end of today's stream. So without further ado, let's listen to Abbot Tryphon.
An incarnational way is to do what the saints do or did. It is said of saints that they don't see the sins of others. They only see their own sins. As long as we are focused on what's wrong with me and what's deficient with me and how I am not shining forth the light of Christ in how I live and how I speak and how I act, as long as I'm focused on what is wrong with other people, I will never grow spiritually, and others will not see in me something to emulate. Which gets down to this all-important thing for all of us. Oh, and by the way, the parish also took away his scholarship. So he, here, as ending his junior year, he was all of a sudden faced with, oh my gosh, I've got my senior year coming up. And you can imagine the black eye orthodoxy received by the professors on that campus. I heard about this story from a professor. He didn't tell me. He wouldn't see me. That is not Orthodox Christianity. It's not what Jesus did to the woman at the well. It's not the reason. If that was the case, Jesus would have avoided the tax collectors and the sinners that he dined with. Anyway, I want to share all this with you because the one thing that I have noticed when I go to campuses, I'm going to tell you a story that happened at Evergreen State College. Evergreen State is known as the most liberal state college in the entire public university system in Washington State. It's a beautiful campus. It's set in about 360 acres of forest. And when you go there, it looks like a utopian city in the future. I've been going there since it was new, way back in the 60s. And we used to have conferences there. And I had been invited for the first time in probably 3 years by one of the professors to come to speak. So I jumped at the opportunity. When I arrived on the campus, I followed the directions, and the building that I was going to be speaking in was a large lecture hall, the tiered traditional lecture hall, and a podium down at the bottom. And I was the first person to arrive there, and I thought, this can't be right, because the last time I spoke there, it was in a classroom. And I thought, oh my gosh, if he's going to have a class meeting here, and there's maybe 20 people in the class, and it's a huge lecture hall. This is not going to work. And then a few students started coming in, and I sat down thinking, oh no, this isn't going to work. And then he comes in, this professor, and I said, why are we using this big lecture hall? And he says, oh, well, this isn't for my class. This is open to the general student population. We have posters up advertising you. And I thought, well, this is a switch. This is known as Seattle now statistically has the most self-proclaimed atheists in the United States. And Washington and Oregon are the most unchurched of all the states. And this is the most unchurched of all the campuses. Why are they having me in a big lecture hall? I pondered that thought. It was like this battle we had with Starbucks, and we finally won after 5 months. And I demanded kindly that maybe I at least have an end this problem with them with over Christmas blend, with a handshake, a tour of their corporate offices, and a free latte. And when they condescended to have me, and as I'm walking down this corridor with glass walls with young people working there, and nobody looks up. And I knew they wanted to, but they were instructed, don't look at them. And I felt like I had just been beamed up on the Enterprise from a primitive planet. But he's not to look at me because he's primitive. We don't want him to feel like he's that he's in a zoo, so they don't look. I think they didn't want their people to look at somebody that won a battle against Starbucks, the evil empire. But anyway, I digress. Where was I? Oh, yes, lecture. So all of a sudden, the room is filled with more than capacity. There were people standing. There were 60 seats in that lecture hall, and they were standing room only. And I noticed that this professor is now hanging out in the very top back area with 2 other professors. And then I knew why I had been invited. I saw him. They were kind of like conferring. And I knew that I was sort of like the Enterprise, been beamed up. Let's see how advanced we are by comparing ourselves to this primitive here. Oh, great, I said to myself. They're going to use me to dismiss not only Orthodoxy and monasticism, but Christianity, and maybe even religion. Well, this was a moment of prayer. My first words in my thoughts were, help! I don't want to look like a fool. And then I said, if I ever needed the Holy Spirit, it's now. And there was a little whining in my voice, I think. And then it came to me. So I scratched my notes. And I stood at the podium and I said, I usually have a question and answer period at the end of a lecture. It was a 90-minute lecture. But I said, I'm going to do something different today. I am going to open it up to questions now. And these 3 professors leaned back. Now we've got him. And wouldn't you know, the very first hand that was raised was a young man midway up. Raised his hand, and I said, yes, sir. And he says, my question is, why should I care about anything you have to say? I'm an atheist. So then I had, about maybe a year earlier, I had watched a lecture online, or a debate online that took place at Portland State University, Portland, Oregon, and it was between a theist and an atheist. The theist was he had a PC. Need I say more? And he was a young man, and he had his laptop open, and the atheist didn't have a laptop. He just had a few notes. And the atheist was just tearing this young man apart. They were both about the same age, but the atheist was winning his debate. I was a high school and college debater, and this was pathetic. It was just pathetic. If I'd been there, I would have rushed forward and pushed that PC out of the way, set my MacBook Air down, and taken over. So then I thought, someday I'm going to be in a situation where I'm going to be confronted with this issue, and I want to win this debate. So I started Googling, and I found this incredible debate between 3 deists and 3 atheists that took place at Cambridge University in England. And of course, there was this big lecture hall, and there was a graduate student in the middle sitting, at this very imposing chair, and he was the facilitator for the debate. And he said, on this side we have the 3 that are representing the deists' view, and on this side the atheists' view, and you will judge who's the winner by which door you go out of. If you go out that door, you are voting for the deist. If you go out that door, you're voting for the atheist. If you go out the middle door, you don't know, it's a toss-up. And it starts. I don't remember the names but only 2 of them, one atheist and one deist. The deist was none other than the now retired Archbishop Rowan Williams of Canterbury, who's greatly influenced by Orthodoxy. On this side, he reminded me in his style of the world wrestling champion. The guys that are wearing weird masks and weird outfits and angry like this. Can you think of who it might be? Dawkins, who is one of the most angry atheists that the planet has ever seen. He makes Lenin look like a happy camper. And so at one point, Rowan Williams says this eloquent statement that is very orthodox. He said that in Christianity, we have a science where we come to truth and knowledge noetically, the nous. And so, as we discover these truths noetically, intuitively, we go deeper into these beliefs, these ideas that we have gleaned, and then we discover the reality of the truth, and it's proven to us. And he said, we are not a science in the physical sense. Well, Dawkins was all over him, tearing him apart just viciously. The turning point of the debate where the deists won happened when one of the atheists sided with Rowan Williams. I was so excited I was standing up with my laptop. I'm holding my laptop. Yay! I have one of the small ones. And the changing moment was when one of the atheists, who is a quantum physicist, turned to Dawkins and said, and I'm paraphrasing, it's been a long time since I've seen this, but he said something like, you are coming across sort of like a ranting, angry tele-evangelist. Boy, ouch, huh? Is that what you said? Ouch? Somebody? Yeah. Oh. And then he said, surely you know that we quantum physicists discover most of the truths that we accept to be true and that we later can prove to be true. We discover them noetically or intuitively. And he said 90% of what quantum physics teaches to be true is not provable in by the physical sciences, like biology. So I said that. I shared that. And there was a hush went over this lecture hall. And the professors, for a moment, looked defeated. And then we got into the nitty-gritty of talking about the spiritual life and why it should mean something. And the one thing I remember when I was a college student, back in 1840, was that the professors that I listened to the most and loved the most were the ones that I knew cared about me and cared about my opinion and actually listened to me with respect. I didn't have to be right. but they listened to me. And this is what I feel that is often missing in the way we as Orthodox Christians and as priests fail our young people. We're all about standing up officially in our role. I told my friend Father Basil Rhodes in Saratoga, California, that if I could, I would have my rasa tie-dyed. Because think of what a connection I could have with a lot of young people if I walked in with a tie-dye. This could be tie-dye. I could even have little lights blinking along here with a peace sign in the middle. Think of the doors that would be opened. And Father Basil said, yeah, but think of the doors that would slam shut. So I'm not going to do that. But if we're going to reach our youth, we have to be authentic. That's what they need. You don't need to be a hipster to reach them, but you do need to be authentic. They need to know that you love them. They need to know that you are happy they are there. They need to know that you care. I read this beautiful story about the elder Sophrony, and I believe it was the Metropolitan Herotheos Blakos' book on the elder Sophrony of Essex, who will soon be a saint. And there was this story about one of his monks' daughter came to visit the monastery. And his daughter was not a practicing Orthodox Christian, and she arrived with a foot-long purple mohawk and piercings everywhere, eyelids, ears, lips, nose, and tattoos. And she had a black leather jacket with spikes. And you know what the elder Sophrony saw in her? The beloved daughter of one of his monks. That's what he saw. And at that point, he embraced her and welcomed her. I was so moved by that a couple weeks later, and I really feel this was providential that I had read it when I did, I came out of our grocery store on the island, and just as I'm coming out, there's a young couple coming in. They had matching purple mohawks. They had matching leather jackets with spikes, and the young woman had added to this ensemble. I don't use that word very often. Thank you. Do you use that word often? Your kids do? Okay. She had a fur around the top, but most interestingly, she had a raccoon tail back here. And before I knew what I was saying, I said, wow, I love your threads. Very counterculture, not unlike my own. And we went like that. 2 hours later, Xenia calls, one of our parishioners. Father, my daughter just called. She says, I think I just met your priest. She wants to meet you. You know, these are those moments when we are truly walking with Jesus. And we trust him so much that we're not guarding our tongues. I was with one of our bishops, Bishop Gorge, who came to visit us years ago. He's now in Australia. He and I went to the Pike Market together, Seattle, the famous Pike Market. And afterwards, we crossed over where there are these big totem poles and there's a view of the harbor, and we walked over there. And it's a place a lot of people that live in Seattle don't go because there's an awful lot of transients that hang out there. And sure enough, there were lots of transients. And when they saw us, some of them made a beeline to us thinking they were going to get money. And quite a few of them are Native Americans from Alaska who have problems with alcohol. And I'm thinking about that, and I'm not going to say anything because I felt ashamed that I hadn't been walking over there lately. When I go to the market, and that I was thinking I need to. So we're walking over there. This man comes up, a Native American. He looked very Alaskan. And he said, "May I have your blessing?" He was Orthodox from Alaska. And Bishop Gorge saw around his neck that he had a cross. And he says, "What a beautiful cross." And the man said, "It's from Jerusalem." And the man was inebriated. And the bishop said, "Let me use your cross to bless you." So the man took his cross and he handed it to Vladika Gorge, and Vladika Gorge kissed the cross, blessed him with the cross, had the man kiss the cross, and then he tenderly put it back around his neck. And the man is just like, ah. And as we were walking away, I said, "Do you know that you just received a blessing from a bishop?" "I did?" "Yes, you did." This is the incarnation at work. This is it. This is it. It's not about pomp. It's not about doctrine. It's not about being right liturgically and theologically. It's about incarnation. It's about love. It's about mercy. It's about being an instrument of God's mercy. That's what it's about. And it takes work on our part to do that. How much time do I have before we have our break? Half hour. Okay, I can do this one. Father Basil Rhodes, who's a Scotsman, has a kilt. I'm Norwegian, I don't. Father Basil said, "Well, if you drink enough scotch, you'll become a Scotsman, and then you can get yourself a kilt." I'm working on it. So Father Basil and his wife Joni, they're from Saratoga, California, St. Nicholas. And by the way, happy St. Nicholas Day. Father Basil and Joni and I, every year, we take 2 days, 2 nights, and we go to Victoria, British Columbia. We like it going to Victoria because it's out of cell phone range. So we really have a break. I'm too guilt-ridden with my lingering Lutheranism to be able to actually turn my cell phone off. I'm always on duty, I feel, so it's always on, except now. I listen to your priest. So we go to Victoria, by the Victoria Clipper from Seattle. And the last morning that we were going to be there, we had high tea. We had done all the things that people do in Victoria. But the last day we were going to be there, Father Basil and I got up early, and we went to a place called Murchie's. Murchie's is a famous tea house / do you know that place? You go there? Isn't it wonderful? Okay. Well, Murchie's, when you go in, they have this gilded gold sign in the window that says Murchie's. It looks like it's right out of the King James Bible. It's beautiful. You go in, on the right side is the coffee, on the left side is the tea. I go in there and I become schizoid. I came back and we had high tea at the monastery for 2 weeks in a row. And so, but I'm a coffee person, see. So we go into Murchie's, and we ordered cappuccinos and scones, beautiful, wonderful scones that they make there. These were the ones we got were the lemon scones, which are my favorite. If anybody wants to ever treat me to a lemon scone, go at it. So we take our scones and our cup and saucer out with our cappuccinos, and we sit out front in a little sidewalk cafe. We just sat down. When out of the side of my eye, I could see someone stopped. And I just knew, just as we sat down, this is going to be a spare changer. And before I could look, Father Basil, who had a direct view of this fellow, said, "Are you hungry?" And the man said, "Yes." And Father Basil said, "What would you like to eat?" And he said, "I would like sausages and eggs." Father Basil said, "Well, they don't serve that here, but let me give you $5 and you can find it." So Father Basil hands me the $5, and I turned and handed the man the $5. The moment that happened, and the man was probably about 26. The moment that happened, another young man who looked about 28 to 30 rushed forward, having seen me hand him the money. wagging his finger at me in my face and saying, "How can you give that junkie money? Don't you know he's just going to buy drugs with it?" And I said, "It's not my place to judge." And he looks at Father Basil and he shakes his head and he says, "You men are men of God. Don't you have any intuitive abilities whatsoever?" And Father Basil said, "The man said he was hungry. That's enough for us." To which the guy went like this, "Cheers," and he walked off in a huff. There was a woman about 35 sitting at another table, and she called out immediately and she said, "Well said. I needed to hear this. I'm a social worker and I've been having a very difficult time. And I've been close to quitting my job." And I said, "Let me tell you a true story." So the young woman came over and she knelt down next to me, and I told her that when I was a young, newly tantric monk, I was walking in San Francisco with the late Bishop Mark of the Patriarchal Church of Russia. He was an old friend, and I knew him before I became Orthodox. And we were walking along in the street, both of us in our robes, and about a half a block away, coming right in our direction, walking very slowly with his eyes cast down to the ground, was the most filthy homeless person I had ever seen. His hair was matted and filthy with dirt. His beard was matted and filled with dirt. His face was filthy with dirt. His hands were dirty. His clothes were ripped. He had shoes on his feet, but he had no soles. And with every step you could see bare feet. Well, I had put myself through graduate school in Berkeley as a bartender bouncer in an Irish pub. And immediately, the bouncer came back, and I felt obligated to protect the bishop. So I took the bishop by the elbow, and I said, "Ladika, let's cross here. It's the middle of the block." "Why?" I said, "Well, look what's coming." "No, we will keep the course." So as we continued walking, and I'm looking, keeping a sharp eye on this guy, ready to rumble. So I'm kind of moving the bishop a little over this way. And the bishop stops, just as the guy's right here. He stops, crosses in front of me, takes this man's hand, puts a $20 bill in it, takes the man's other hand, puts it over it, goes like this, and he looks at the man and he says, "I want you to buy something good to eat." And for the first time, we saw the man look up. What I saw astounded me. And as we walked away, I said, "Ladika, did you see that man's eyes? Those were not the eyes of a derelict homeless man. Those eyes were filled with love and mercy and wisdom. They were the whitest whites and the bluest blue eyes I had ever seen." And the bishop said, "That's because we were being tested. That was an angel unaware." To which the young woman started crying. And then she said, "I've got to go. I'm going to be late for work." And she rushed off. And then a middle-aged couple sitting at this other table. Can you picture it? The man calls out and he said, "That is the most incredible story I have ever heard. You made my wife cry." And then Father Basil said, "He's back." And the young man who had confronted me was there. And just as I'm braced for another, he says, "I've come back to apologize. I followed him, and I saw him buy yogurt and fruit with the money you gave him. Forgive me." To which I leapt to my feet, gave him a big bear hug. Sorry. Gave him a big bear hug. And I said, "You were forgiven the moment the words came out of your mouth." And then we ate our scone and drank our now lukewarm coffee. And when we were leaving, Father Basil said, "You've got to write about that for your blog." And I said, "Well, you were here with me. I can't. Because if you were not with me, I couldn't have written about it because people would have thought, oh, that's just fiction." So we went back to the hotel. I got my MacBook Air. Told him to leave his PC in his room. And we sat down in the coffee shop, and together we recounted every detail as I wrote this so that we wouldn't forget. And then we took the photo that Father Basil had taken of the front window of Murchie's. It's called Angel Unaware if you want to Google it. And there's this picture of the Murchie's window in that story. That is the incarnation. And I have to tell you, many years ago, I met a young man at the Graduate Theological Union in Berkeley who was a seminarian. He was a Coptic Christian from Cairo. And he told me the story of this apparition of the Holy Virgin at St. Mary's Coptic Church. You Coptic people know this one. It's probably the only apparition of the Virgin that has been photographed widely. There was a man who was sitting, or was in his shop. He was a car repairman. And he was sitting in his shop across the street. This young Coptic man told me the story. And he saw a woman walking at the base of the dome of St. Mary's Church across the street. And he thought that she was going to commit suicide. And he ran out into the street and he yelled, "Lady, don't jump." He had a withered arm from birth. It was like this. So he worked with one hand, and he, "Lady, don't jump." And she continued walking, and he ran out, and again, "Lady, don't jump." Have you heard this one? No. His withered arm at that moment was made whole. He was a Muslim. And Anwar Sadat, after the thousands and thousands of people that started converging on this site, had all the buildings leveled to make room for them. And the Holy Virgin visited the clergy and bishops in the church to comfort them during this time of persecution. And I heard this story, and I said to the young man, "Wow, why don't we have miracles like this happen in the West?" And he said, "But you do. You're just not noticing because you're too scientific." And so, let me tell you, I expect angels unawares everywhere now. There was one year we had a pastoral conference that ended in San Francisco, and I had hurt my back, and I was walking back to the airport like this with a cane, and it was an excruciating pain, and I got back and I went to my chiropractor, and he said, "Father, I want you to see me in 2 days," and he said, "and you need to take it easy. You really did an injury to your back." And I got back to the monastery ready to take it easy, and I got a call from my archbishop, or my bishop, the vicar bishop, and he says, "Father Tryphon, you have to come. This is Friday." And Thursdays are the day I got back after the conference. He says, "Father Tryphon, you have to come back to San Francisco." "What? Why?" He says, "I can't tell you. You will be reimbursed for your airfare, but you have to come back to San Francisco. I will pick you up at the airport tomorrow morning, Saturday morning." What is this about? I've injured myself. I'm not supposed to travel. "If you don't, there will be serious consequences." Don't you love that? Serious consequences. What in the heck does that mean? I mean, am I going to get a spanking? And I said, so I was thinking in my mind, what could cause them to make me come now, tomorrow? And I thought, oh dear, I wonder if I've been suspended. And I suspected that Archbishop Anthony was in his presence and that he was told he couldn't tell me. So in a quiet way I said, "Ladika, have I been suspended?" "Yes." "Great, I've been suspended. What have I done?" "I don't remember breaking the fast on the airline." So Father Paul, we got an airline ticket. I got to the airport early, took the first flight I could. I got to San Francisco. The bishop was meeting me at the curbside. "Give me your cross." That serious? We in the church abroad we don't monkey around with stuff. Took my cross off, handed it to the bishop. "You are not to give anyone a blessing that asks for it." "Great. Everybody at the cathedral knows I'm a priest. They're going to ask a blessing. What am I supposed to say? "You are under suspension." So I show up at the cathedral. I still have no idea what's happened. Well, it turns out there's a woman in Seattle at it used to be at St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Cathedral, whose dad founded the cathedral, and whose brother would not be ordained a priest because he was divorced, and she was mad that I had been ordained a priest, even though I had nothing to do with the cathedral. So, she accused me of being a womanizer. Well, that's pretty serious, and if you're being accused of being a womanizer, you at least under canon law have a right to have your accuser, you know who the accuser is. Who's the accuser? Can't tell you. Tuesday morning, or Tuesday afternoon, this was Saturday, Tuesday afternoon, I'm finally vindicated, and then I found out what happened. Old Father Constantine, who was in his 80s, had been accused of being a womanizer by the same person, because she didn't like him because he was the priest and her brother wasn't. And the Archbishop had finally had it and said, we're going to let this one go, because he had written to our Metropolitan. And the Archbishop moved quickly to suspend me so that I wouldn't be called to New York and have this prolonged. And the Archbishop said, we're going to confront this woman, and she's going to receive what Father Tryphon's, what he would have received. In other words, excommunication and deposition. I would have been deposed and excommunicated. So once this went through the process, and I was able to prove that I wasn't even in the state of Washington when I was allegedly having this affair with this woman, and that the woman that I allegedly had an affair with had not been named by this person. It was just a woman. And but let me tell you about the angel unaware that came to my aid, that comforted me. I was on my way. I stayed with the Capuchin Franciscan's house in San Francisco, where the superior there is one of my good friends. I figured, like, if everybody knows that that I'm suspended and I'm really humiliated by this, and I don't know what's going to happen, I don't even know if I'm going to have priesthood after this, I wanted to at least stay with some old friends. So every day I would walk the 20-minute walk on side streets to the cathedral for the morning liturgy. I'd hide in the altar. In fact, I wasn't even in the altar. I wasn't even permitted to go into the altar. So I hid somewhere, balcony, I think, one day. Then I would go to the vigil service that night. And during the rest of the day, I'm basically just kind of on my own. And the first day I'm walking, and it's raining, and I see a bag lady lying on her back, or on her side, with her back to me, on a bench. Right next to her is one of those kiosks where you can actually be out of the rain waiting for a bus, but she's not there, she's here, and it's raining. My immediate thought was, she's dead. Otherwise, why is she here? And I looked around, and people were ignoring her, and I thought, oh my gosh, this poor woman is dead. So I thought, well, I got to do something. So I walked over, and she couldn't see me because I couldn't see her face. And all of a sudden, as I'm approaching her, she sat up. I still hadn't seen her face. She put her hands up in the air, and she says, praise Jesus, my friend is here. Praise Jesus, my friend is here. Praise Jesus, my friend is here. And she turned around. It was a heavy-set black lady with layers of clothing and bags. And she looked at me and she smiled. And what hit me immediately was that I had been saying the Jesus prayer. She didn't say praise the Lord, she said praise Jesus. And when she looked at me with such love that my heart melted and I felt like I do have a friend. And so I said to her, I'm going through a very difficult time. Would you please pray for me? Praise Jesus, help my friend. Praise Jesus, help my friend. 3 times. Little bucket. That's an inside joke. Anyway, every morning and every evening she was there. And every day when I would step up on the curb and I couldn't see her face, and she would do the same thing. Praise Jesus, my friend is here. Every day, coming and going. And by then, I knew she had to be an angel unaware. And I thought, God loves me look at the angel underwear he gave me. I mean, when was the last time you ever heard of somebody having an angel underwear ministry to them that is a black bag lady in San Francisco, sitting on a park bench? I mean, I don't know anybody. And I just felt so nourished and so supported that I started I was kind of bounding in my walk. I was happy. I didn't care when my priesthood was taken away. I had this friend in Jesus. And the last day, Tuesday, I had been down. The bishop said, we'll know today, where will you be? And I said, well, I'm going to be in the St. John Academy with the kids. I want to be with the kids. So I'm down in the St. John Academy. And the bishop walks in, Father Tryphon. Very serious, Father Tryphon. Oh, God, here we go. Come with me. So we went up into the cathedral, into the altar where my cross was lying. He took the cross, he put it around my neck, and he said, you have been restored. And I have been instructed by the Archbishop that the next time I'm in Seattle that I'm to go to this woman's house and tell her that Father Tryphon has had the suspension has been lifted from Father Tryphon, and you are now barred from communion for 6 months. And you need to repent. So I'm on my way back. And just before I left, I went into the bookstore, Holy Virgin bookstore, and Father Ambrose, who's this monk from England, is behind the counter. He's a friend of mine. He's a hierodeacon. And he says, Father Tryphon, I have these cookies. You can have this bag of cookies. They're Lenten cookies. I don't want any cookies. Father, you have to have these cookies. I don't need any cookies. You need cookies. So he gave me this unopened bag of vegan cookies. So I'm walking along with the vegan cookies. And I walk across the street praying that she's going to be there. And she was. But this time she's sitting up. She's eating Chinese food. And I thought, wow, where did she get this? And I looked. Right across the street from bench is the only Chinese vegan restaurant in San Francisco that I'm aware of. It's a place that we used to go as clergy whenever we were in the city, and it was a Lenten period. So she is, during Great Lent, my angel unaware is eating Lenten food from that Chinese vegan restaurant. And I went over and I sat down next to her, and I said, I have some cookies for you. They're vegan. They're Lenten. And she took them and she set them down and she put her hands up. Praise Jesus, I got dessert. 3 times. And then she hugged me. Have you ever been hugged by an angel? I was. This must be the break. Is this time for vegan cookies? Yes.
Okay, so now we're going to jump over to part 2. Thank you, everybody, for the super chats. I will be reading those at the end. I just want to keep our momentum going. We're going to dive right back into part 2 here with Abbot Tryphon, and we'll just watch probably maybe half of this, and then we'll get into the super chat. So thank you very, very much, everybody. Again, smash that like, and we're going to get back to Abbot Tryphon. Here we go.
And the first one was when I first became Orthodox, and I was a simple monk, and I went to a parish in Santa Rosa, California, Holy Protection, OCA parish. And there were a lot of little kids. And there was one little kid that particularly irritated me because I felt his parents were a little bit loose with him. And he did a few cute things. Like, for instance, when this was a parish that, for the epiclesis, the calling down of the Holy Spirit and the gifts, everyone would do a prostration, which I really loved, and it was beautiful. So anyway, there was this little boy, and kids imitate, and they follow us, and they see what we're doing, and they notice, and we don't think they notice, but they do. And so we've all seen cute little boys and girls that take their mother's pearls and they swing them like a censer. We've all seen that. Well, this little boy would do full prostrations, but he did them in the wrong direction. So we would be going like this, And he would be going like this. And so it was very cute, but he was very noisy and moved around a lot, and he irritated me. I thought, he should be just sort of standing there like this. We had Forgiveness Sunday. How many of you avoid Forgiveness Sunday? There's something about the Forgiveness Sunday Vespers that I really believe is the most avoided service in the entire year. I don't really want to stand and tell somebody I forgive them. I don't even want to ask their forgiveness. They haven't groveled before me yet. Or we don't even say anything, we just avoid. It's sort of like this inner clock. Oh, it's Forgiveness Sunday. Oh, am I busy this afternoon? So it was Forgiveness Sunday, and in this parish, the priest would stand there and ask everyone. He would say, please forgive me for any hurt or offense I have caused you in any way, and then he would prostrate. And so he did it according to rank. First the priest, then the deacon, then the readers, and then the monks, etc. And so, and then you continue on. I haven't been able to prostrate without help getting up for years, so I don't do that anymore. I just do a profound bow. But I prostrated, and all of a sudden there's this little boy, the little monster boy. And I thought, oh dear. So I said, please forgive me for any hurt or offense I have caused you in any way. And I prostrated. And he didn't have the words down pat, but he said something to that effect back. And he prostrated back. And I was so moved by that moment that I burst into tears. And from that point on, that little monster kid was like a little angel. And I took joy in his wanderings about. He was like the chosen people, wandering about. It was so cute. And there was another one that I was going to tell you about. What was that? There was a woman in one parish, that same parish. She was an elderly woman, Russian. And they had this tradition that on Sundays after the liturgy there was a meal, but you had to pay for it. And we were two poor monks, and we didn't have money, and most parishes, oh, Father, no, you didn't pay. So I just took it for granted that we didn't need to pay for our parochials. And this woman did not approve of that. She never told me that she disapproved that we weren't paying for our pierogies. But you could sense it. It was sort of like being slammed into a vacuumed room and have all of the air sucked out. That was kind of what it was like when I was in her presence. And I couldn't figure out why. And one day I asked the priest, I said, you happen to know what's going on with her? She treats us like pariahs. And he said, do you think it? And I said, do you think it has anything to do with the fact that we don't pay for our pierogies? And he said, oh yes, that's probably the reason. She is the head of the sisterhood, and they make the pierogies as a fundraiser for the church. And you don't have to pay. You're monks, we don't expect you to pay. But somehow she expects you to pay. So they were having a special dinner. And it was going to be a fundraising dinner. And it was $50 a plate. And I talked to Father Paul, and I said, we weren't going to go. I mean, it would be sort of unmonastic to go to a $50 a plate dinner. So we really avoided things like that. Then, I do it now. With relish. But then I didn't. I was more pious then. And so I said, we need to give her $100 and just tell her that, gee, we know you're doing a fundraiser, but we can't be there, but here's $100 as our donation. So I went up to her after liturgy. We hadn't planned to stay for the free pierogi. I went up to her and I said, we have to leave, but I just wanted to give you this $100. Father Paul and I won't be able to be at your fundraising banquet, but we really love what you're doing, you and the sisterhood. It's a great thing. So we want to give you this money as our contribution, however meager it might be. And it was like I had given her 12 gold coins. It was like her demeanor completely changed. We still had our free pierogies on Sundays, but she gave them to us with a smile. And sometimes when we have kinds of differences of opinion or misunderstandings with people, we want to assume what's going on, but we don't really know for sure. And so the best response is kindness, love, mercy, and forgiveness. We're not asked we're not told that we should wait until they've asked our forgiveness. We're not, as a monk, it was not her responsibility to be kind to me, but it was my responsibility to be kind to her. And that's the difficult part of being a Christian, because you've got to go out of your way sometimes and go into your uncomfortable zone and do what you know God is calling you to do. And every one of us is giving ample opportunities. And if we're paying attention, they come on almost daily basis. You know, some people think that living in a monastic community is just a sort of an idyllic place to live. But one of the things that is, there's two ways in Orthodoxy that we have that lead to salvation that are salvific. One of them is in the married state, and the other one is in the monastic state. To be an unmarried is more difficult, because as an unmarried, you're really pretty much on your own. You make the decisions. Nobody else, you don't have to take other people into account necessarily. But in the monastic life, the monk is obedient, or the nun is obedient to the rule of the monastery and to the abbot or abbess. The abbot is obedient to the rule and to his brothers. I don't make any major decision affecting the monastery without consulting the tonsured members of the community, because that's the salvific role for me. That's what will bring me salvation. It's not about my will. One of the big differences between Roman Catholic monastic life and the Orthodox monastic life, although Vatican II brought in changes, so there's less differences now. But let's take the Benedictines are probably the closest to our tradition in monasticism. And I've always had close relationships with the Benedictines. The Mount Angel Abbey in Oregon, they've always been very kind to me. And in fact, the last time I was there, I took a young seminarian from St. Petersburg, Russia with me for a prearranged time when he could have time in their seminary at the request of his rector, because he was going to be teaching seminary at St. Petersburg Theological Academy. So I'm a board member of the Seattle St. Petersburg Sister Churches program, and we sponsor things like that. So we made arrangements, and I arrived, and the abbot of the monastery, big monastery, met me and took me down this large corridor in the monastic enclosure, and there was this huge oak door, and it said Abbot Tryphon on it. And I thought, wow, this I could get used to this. And he opened the door, and here's the Archbishop's suite. They were going to have me use the Archbishop's suite for the week that I was there. I walked in, my cell phone rang, and it was a friend of mine, and I said, Father Mark, you'll never guess, I'm at the Abbey, and they just gave me the Archbishop's suite for a week. And when the lights went on, and there was one wall that lit up, and I opened up a cupboard, and there was a little refrigerator, and I opened up the refrigerator, and there was some Coca-Cola and different things in there, but there was a bottle of which you mix with tonic water. Yeah, it's tonic water. And I said, oh my gosh, they have tonic water. If I'd known, I would have brought a bottle of gin with me. I could have made a gin and tonic. And he says, Father Tryphon, it's a Benedictine monastery. Look further. So I opened up another cupboard, and there was my favorite gin. And since I worked as a bartender bouncer in an Irish pub in graduate school in Berkeley, I made a gin and tonic with one hand. And I had a great time with those Benedictines. But traditionally, Benedictines, the abbot, like ours, would be ruling for life. He would be elected by his community, and he would rule for life. But they had something that was a part of their tradition that didn't really come from St. Benedict, who's one of our saints as well, but rather it came from the Middle Ages, so that the abbots were really ruling their monasteries more like a fiefdom, like the lord of a fiefdom. And so because of that, the Lord Abbot has a nice ring to it. The Lord Abbot, in fact, we got the thing, the Salish Sea, the Salish Brotherhood. Salish is the Puget Sound, is an one of the largest inner seas. And so the Puget Sound is part of the Salish Sea, which goes all the way up into Canada. So we call ourselves the Salish Brotherhood of St. John the Wonder Worker, the Knights of the Salish Sea. And one of my local Greek Orthodox priest friends, when he first moved to the area, he gave me the title, the Lord Abbot of the Salish Sea and all the Isles. I was the one that had all of the isles. So But again, going back to this salvific role of monasticism, is it required of me that I put to rest my ego and my self-will. And that's not easy. So if I was just a bachelor, and I had no one else to account to, it would be harder for me to achieve that. Now, one of the things, the difference is, and I'm going to stand up for this one because I want you gentlemen here to really hear me. And you ladies can sit back and enjoy every moment of what I'm going to say. Whenever I have a couple that are journeying into Orthodoxy, and they're a married couple, and they decide they want to be Orthodox, I always tell them that, well, we're going to have a series of meetings that you could actually say is like a pre-marriage counseling session. Even though you're married, you need to know that there's a difference in the way we approach marriage in the Orthodox Church. And this is the salvific difference. In Protestantism and in Roman Catholicism, there is this tradition that when you exchange vows, you exchange the ring, and you're vowing to one another. And so, over the years, both as a police chaplain who is looking for signs of abuse in a relationship, women oftentimes think that part of their obedience or their commitment in marriage when they've exchanged vows is no matter what. In fact, I have to tell you, and I'm going to say this, and it will be recorded, and I don't care who hears this, but I heard recently from a group of priests on the East Coast that some monastic gave a retreat in which he told women that it was salvific for them to take the abuse, that they should take the abuse. Say what? I mean, I had this image when I heard of it, this priest that was telling me about it. I had this image, it was a fantasy that formed in my mind of a bunch of women rolling up their sleeves and taking him on. That was absolute rubbish to think that. Why would a man have a right to abuse his wife? And why would a woman, in her marriage commitment, have to take it? Why? It's not true. The Lord does not require that of you if you're abused. This goes for men who are abused, because that happens too. Men and women, no one, a child, no one deserves to be abused. And there's nothing salvific about it. Think about it. The man who's beating on his wife, and she's taking it because she thinks, well, I have to submit to my husband, and somehow God wills this. Well, what is this doing to him? He's not being repentant because no one's calling him on it. So it's two people's souls being ruined, his and hers both. That's not our Christian faith. What happens that is different in the Orthodox Church is we don't have the exchange of vows. What happens instead is we have the crowning, which is the sacramental moment of a marriage. Now, when the Archbishop of Canterbury was marrying Princess Diana and Prince Charles, I remember I sat up watching that all night. The whole world did. It was beautiful. At least we romantics sat up and watched it. I cried. It was so tender. But one of the things that the Archbishop of Canterbury said to the bride and groom standing before him was that he referred to the Orthodox ceremony of the crowning. And he referred to the crowning in Orthodoxy as like everyone for that moment is a prince and a princess. No. The crowning is not about being a prince and a princess, however cute you might be. It's the crown of martyrdom. Death to self. So, gentlemen, think about the moment the crown was set on your head. Did you feel like a puffed up prince? Or were you thinking about what that means? It means that you have to, for the rest of your married life, be obedient to your spouse. And she, in turn, has to be obedient to you. It's this balance. And sometimes part of the balance that's required of us as we go deeper into the spiritual life, is not to be paying attention to whether, well, let's see, I did my part, but you do your part. It's not like a scale in a grocery store. Oh, like, well, I've done my part, where are you? I'm not going to do any more until you do your part, so it's like this. And in fact, since you haven't done your part for some time, it has to be like this. That's not what it's about. It's about you and what you're doing. Don't worry about them. Worry about what you're doing. And make sure that if your marriage is in trouble because it's become either abusive or distant, and you men are going to be, some of you may be a little perturbed with me, what I'm going to say here next. You women will be loving this. You'll want to give me medals. I'll take them. In a day and age when most women have to work to support the family, so that there's two people working, you men need to take up the house chores equally, which means washing dishes, scrubbing floors, vacuuming, changing babies, cooking, mowing the lawn is not just a man's job. I remember I told you earlier about kids who pay attention to things? When I was in the 5th grade, my dad went off to the golf course. And my mother said, I thought you were going to mow the lawn before you went golfing today. I'll do it tonight. Well, tonight came, and he was late getting back from the golf course. And so my mother was out as the sun was going down, mowing the lawn. Not because it really needed it, but that was her way of saying to my dad, you fell down on the job. Because as he came home, he had to suffer seeing his wife mowing the lawn. And it was a push mower. It's about balance. There's no reason why you men can't wash dishes, do the laundry, change the baby's diapers. There's no reason at all for a woman to have to come home after a full day's work and do all of those chores while the man comes home and sits back with the proverbial pipe is wrong. It's not Orthodox Christianity. Sorry, it's not. So, and the ones that seem to have the most trouble with this are evangelicals, serious evangelicals, which is why I always do a debriefing when they become Orthodox, because the men need it. The women are even need it, because so many women have been so sucked into that image that they don't get the fact that they don't need to take this. It's not equal. Now, something else that I wanted to share with you about forgiveness. This happened to me, I don't remember, a year ago, somewhere in there. I had been, periodically, I'm called either to Pierce County or King County when there's a particular tragedy where they need lots of chaplains. And I had been called out for the death of a police officer in Portland. And it was early in the morning, or late at night that I went out. So early in the morning, the ferries don't start until around 5 to go back to the island. And so I went into a coffee house on Capitol Hill in Seattle. And I had my MacBook Air opened for you PCers. And I was working. And 2 young men came and sat at a table that was about as close as that rail is right here. And I'm sitting there, and one of them says, only a stupid old man would believe in God. I'm sitting in a corner, and there was no stupid old man behind me. I didn't see any stupid old man around me. I could have taken a selfie to check for sure, but I'd seen myself earlier in the evening in a mirror, and I thought, they must be talking about me. So I could have done all kinds of things. I could have, how dare you speak to me like that? I could have forgotten my state in life and slugged him. I could have pulled his chair out from under him. I could have walked out in a huff. I could have put the evil eye on him. I don't even know how to do that. But there's all kinds of things I could have done. But I chose to see this as something that had been put before me as a test, not unlike the angels unawares. So I said nothing. I didn't even look at them. I left my MacBook Air open so the glow of the apple would be seen. Listen, I live in the capital of the PC people in Seattle, so it's my duty. So I went out. I went up to the barista and I said, "Do you sell gift certificates?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "I would like to buy 2 gift certificates. And they're for the young men that are sitting over there. But don't give it to them until I've left the premises." So I went back, reverently closed my MacBook Air, and I left. About 2 months later, I'm back in that same cafe. It's called the Ventriloquist, or what's the name of that old? Some of you older guys. Victrola. It's called the Victrola. And so I go back in the Victrola, and I'm sitting back. As a police chaplain, I like to have my back to the wall. You never know. You FBI guys do that too? So I'm sitting there, and I'm working, and all of a sudden there's 2 young men standing right here. I looked up, and it was them, 2 months later. And one of them, the guy that had uttered the words, said, "We just want to know, after I said those unkind words about you, why you would buy us gift certificates." And I said, "Because God told me so." And the young man teared up, and he said, "Well, I just want to apologize and ask you for forgiveness." And I do what everybody knows I would do. I stood up, hugged him, and said, "Of course you're forgiven. You were forgiven the moment I heard the words coming out of your mouth." 2 things happened at that moment. One was a multitude of my sins are covered. And these young men received a big dose of grace. And it's all about making Christianity visible. Not by how we dress, not by the doctrines we teach, not by the amount of icons we have on our dashboard. But why? Did you have a lot on your dashboard? But it's about being upfront about our faith, being serious. What people, not just young people, but what people generally need to see in our age of unbelief is authenticity. And the only way that we cannot be authentic as actors. It doesn't work that way. Because if you're thinking, well, I'm going to have to contrive being authentic, it comes across as inauthentic. It has to be something that is such a part of you that it comes out of you as like pores. You know, it has to be a natural thing. And so if you, as an older person, I was going to tell you my second thing, the big thing that was a lifesaver for me, connected with a little boy in the church. Before we moved our monastery to Vashon Island, our monastery was in Richmond, California, in a really bad neighborhood. It's the only neighborhood we could afford. All the people around us had bars on their windows. Day and night, cars would go by with boom boxes, kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. And we lived there for about 4 years. And the final assault on my nerves was one night I heard a helicopter hovering over our house. And I went out and I looked up, and here was a police helicopter, 45 minutes hovering over the monastery with 2 huge beam spotlights on a neighbor's front door and back door. And the house was surrounded, the corner house was surrounded by undercover narcotic agents. Big drug bust. And I went back into my cell, and I sat at my desk, and I looked up at the sky. which was orange because we lived not too far from the Richmond refinery. So it was always orange. I felt like we were living on another planet. And I said, God, I can't take it anymore. You know that scene out of that movie where the guy throws open the windows and he yells out, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. Well, I was a monk and I wasn't going to do that. So I left the window closed and I just said, Lord, I'm really upset. Please get us out of here. And the next day I called the bishop and I said, can we have a blessing to look for a rural location? But when we first moved there, and we were really struggling financially, we had no support base whatsoever, and we were new to Orthodoxy. We had been Eastern Catholic monks. And so we had one of my friends, who was a Christian brother, the superior of the Christian Brother House in Berkeley. They had the St. Mary's College High School. It's an all-boys high school at the time. And Brother Alexis asked me one day, he said, I know you taught college before. Would you, and I know you guys are struggling, would you like to come and teach in our school? And I said, well, I taught psychology. Do you need a psychology teacher? And he said, no, we need an English teacher and a religion teacher. And I said, well, I can do the religion part. I don't know about the English. But I did. I taught English there for 3 years. My very first class, and here I am in my robes and my klobuk or my kamalavka and my big beard. And I'm sitting there, and I'm standing there in my class, and I taught freshman and sophomore in my first class teaching at St. Mary's College High School. Very first day to teach were a bunch of freshmen. Of course, they're already scared to death. Brand new school, they're new to it, they're new to high school, and they walk in like deer in the headlights. And the first kid to walk in was a young man by the name of Paris. That was his first name. Handsome young man with a mohawk, a tall, purple mohawk. I don't know what mohawks, about purple. What is this purple thing? I think I would look good. I can take these, use mousse, pull it up to the top, and dye it purple, and boy, would I look, well. So this guy walks in, young black man. He had a job as a model, and so every time he came to the class, he had really different looking outfits that were expensive looking, and he got to keep the clothes that he would try, or maybe he was just wearing them, I don't know what. But anyway, his name was Paris, and he comes in with his hair like this. And I'm thinking, oh, good grief. And now I'm still in that mode about being the crabby old man. And the next guy, immediately that came in after him, was a young man in a black leather jacket with motorcycle boots, black tight jeans, and the black leather jacket had spikes in it. There go those spikes again. And he had an Elvis Presley hairdo, a big pompadour that was greased. You could see the shine of the grease. And I'm thinking, oh no, how am I going to do this? And I kid you not, these two became my favorite students. They were the kindest. Both of them, at different times during the year, would surprise me with gifts. The guy with the pompadour thing made me a backpack for my bike, made it by hand, my bicycle. They were nice, and they were good students. They were kind to other students. They were wonderful. There were a lot of other students that were different too, but they opened my eyes. And I've never been the same since then. And I see that period of time in my life as a God-given gift, that I look at young people and I don't see mohawks or spikes or tattoos. I see family. They're my family. And I love them. The other story that I want to tell you, and this happened when I was young. I know it's hard to believe now that I was ever a long-distance runner, but I was. Now I can barely go up the steps without losing my breath. But I used to live, when I was in Portland, there were two favorite places for me to go running. One of them was the Wildwood Trail in Forest Park, which is this 500-acre park. It's a natural park, and you go into that park, and most of the time you can run for hours and not see anybody. It's that remote and beautiful. It's like a primordial park with dripping water everywhere and ferns everywhere. It's beautiful. And another place is Multnomah Falls on the Columbia Gorge, and it's one of the tallest falls in the country. And there's a whole series of falls if you're on the old highway that are cascading down. But Multnomah Falls is the highest, and it's actually two falls, and there's a bridge that goes over, so if you're on the bridge, you're looking down at falls and up. And there's switchbacks that go up to the very top and go into another primordial forest that is pure and beautiful. And I always would go, at least once a month, I'd go there to run. I'd run up to the top, and then I'd run back in the forest. And I always took a little pack on my back with a hoodie and a sandwich and some water. And this would be a day run. And so I, as a monk, I really wanted to revisit that place that had been sacred ground to me. So I was on Vashon Island, but I was in Portland to see my spiritual father, and I had some extra time. And so I thought, well, I'm going to revisit that place, so I'm going to hike up there. So I borrowed a friend's little backpack and put it on the back of my cassock and on my shoulders, and I started up, and I got up to the very top, and I started off on this trail. And it was a weekday, and there was only one other car parked down there by the lodge when I arrived. And just as I was back in about a half hour into the forest, I came across a young man sitting on a log. He didn't see me. He had his back slightly to me. And I didn't want to startle him, so I called out to just let him know that there's somebody here. And I said, how are you doing? And he turned around, and he looked like he had seen a ghost. And he actually looked frightened for a moment. And so in an attempt to put him at ease, I said, I'm on a hike to revisit areas that I used to run, and this is about the area that I would always stop and have some coffee and a sandwich. Can I share my sandwich with you? And in kind of a weak voice, he said, yes. So I sat down with him, and he looked at me, and he said, are you an angel? And I said, why do you ask? And he showed me his revolver. He said, I'm at the end of my life, of my ropes, the end of my rope. He says, I can't live any longer. I'm too unhappy. And this is my dad's gun out of his drawer, and I have come up here to kill myself. And then he says, and I've been sitting here praying for a sign that God doesn't want me to do this. And then there you are. I put my arm around him, and I said, I'm not an angel, but I am God's messenger. And I said, God wants me to tell you that it's going to get better. And then we shared a sandwich and some coffee. It was kind of like a hipster communion. I had one cup of coffee, so we had to pass it back and forth. And so we talked for quite a while about his life, about why he turned out his girlfriend broke up with him. You know, young men never know that there'll be another woman down the line that's better suited. They always think that this is it. And he was not doing well in school, was fighting with his parents. He had all these things that had stacked up against him, and he felt like there's nothing for me, nothing. And so he thought, well, I'll just go way up in this forest where no one will hear the shot, and I'll kill myself. And so we had a long talk. And I asked him to give me the revolver. And I emptied the bullets. And I threw them into the forest. And then we walked down together. And when we got down to our cars, we were still the only two cars there. So this was a divinely providential moment that I was called there for that. In that moment, I was an agent of the Lord. Remember I said earlier that if you don't have an angel unaware, be one? Well, God had called me to be an angel unaware at that moment for this young man. And so by the time we got back down to our vehicles, quite a few hours had passed, maybe 2 or 3 hours, and I said, I'm going to pray for you. I said, when you get home, I don't want you to just slip this revolver back in your dad's drawer. I said, I want you to promise me that you're going to give it to your dad when he gets home and tell him what you had done and what you had planned and the sequence of what had happened. And I said, just know that maybe if you describe me to your dad, he might think it was an apparition. But again, this is incarnation. This is what it means to be incarnational to others. To be God's love and mercy for others. And sometimes it might just simply mean being the one that bothers to make it your business when you hear a woman being beaten by her husband through the wall of your apartment and doing something about it and not deciding it's not your business. I was in Berkeley once, driving up Shattuck Avenue, and I saw this man roughing up a woman on the corner. And I did kind of a Starsky and Hutch thing. I drove up on the curb with my car, and I leapt out, and I told the guy in my most authoritative voice, back off. And then I stood between, now this is something I would recommend, but I stood between him and the woman, relying on the fact, well, in fact, I told him, I said, and he started to come at me, and I said, 2 things. One, I have white hair, and I'm a priest. What do you think is going to happen if the people driving by see you starting to beat on a priest with white hair? And number 2, as I was coming up on the curb, I dialed 911. And the police are on their way. So do you really think it's wise to hit me? Well, he backed off, and the police arrived. Those are those moments like that when we really have an obligation as fellow humans to protect others that are suffering. Once I was on the ferry from West Seattle to Vashon Island. We'd only lived on the island for 2 months. And I saw 4 boys, teenagers, high school students, roughing up another boy. And they were pushing him, and they weren't letting him go. And I looked around, and everybody was sitting there minding their own business, reading the newspaper, looking out the window, doing everything to divert their attention to what was happening here. And there must have been 50 people that were in earshot of what was happening. And this wasn't a silent thing. These guys were shouting at him, pushing him, threatening him. And I went into my teacher mode. And I walked up, and I grabbed 2 of the kids by their shirt sleeves, pushed them to the side, and I said, "Leave him alone." And one of them, in defiance, slugged this kid in the stomach right in front of me. And I took my hand onto his shoulder, forcibly sat him down on the floor, and I said, "I'm not going to let you do this." And the ferry came into the dock, and they announced that we are now on Vashon Island. And I said to this boy that they were attacking, "I want you to leave now. And the rest of you are going to sit with me." And I looked at all 4 boys, 5, whatever it was, and I looked right at them in the face. And I said, "I want you to know that I'm remembering your face, so I will know who you are when I come to the high school to pick you out." And the next day, I showed up at the high school, and I told the principal, and I described the boys. And she knew who they were. "Oh, I know who they are." So she called them into her office, and they turned white, whiter than me. Now, I didn't have to do that, but I did as a Christian, as an Orthodox Christian. I had to do that. And there's so much in our world today that is so disturbing and so sad. One of the police officers that was at this shooting recently, we hear nothing but all the bad stuff about police officers. This is a police officer who's getting people out of the building, out of this building where all this shooting has taken place. And he said, "Follow me, we're going to get out of here." And somebody was saying that he's shooting, and he says, "I'll take the bullet for you." I don't know about you, but as an Orthodox Christian, I would rather take the bullet for somebody than live with myself for letting them be taken out. You don't have to be a police officer to do that, and most police officers would do that. I wrote a blog article once, maybe some of you have read it, where I suggested certain things that we could do to deepen our faith, and one of them was, the next time you're pulled over by a police officer for speeding, apologize and thank him for stopping you and for helping you make your life safer by calling you on your stupid driving. And tell him that you appreciate that he cares enough that he's writing you a ticket. I got pulled over on the island where everybody knows me, except this one deputy who was new. He didn't know me. He didn't know that he had pulled over a sheriff's chaplain who had made what they call, I'm sorry you people here in California, we call it a California stop. In Washington, we call it a California stop. So I came to a stop. It was late at night. No one was around. A four-way stop. I came kind of like this, looked both ways, and went around the corner. Against the law, you have to stop completely. He pulled me over, and all these cars coming from the ferry are passing me, and they're all slowing down, and the spotlight is on me, and the lights, and there I am, the whitest guy on the island, lit up. Everybody sees Father Tryphon, the chaplain, the abbot at the monastery, has just been pulled over. And as he's walking, as I see him in the rearview mirror, I reach onto my dashboard and I pull away the sign that says Police and Fire Chaplain. And I put it down between the seats. And I took my badge, which was on my belt, and I put it in my pocket. Because I knew that I didn't want him to think that their chaplain wanted special favors. So I didn't want him to know I was their chaplain. He found out because I went into a restaurant the following week, and whenever I see police officers, if they're having something I can afford, I always buy it for them. Because I get $400 a month Social Security. So I would be sort of not even be able to afford to be a street person if I didn't live in a monastery, because I didn't put much into the Social Security system. But that Social Security money is the abbot's discretionary fund, which is where the money comes that I give away. And when I see, like an old lady eating breakfast alone, or police officers eating, I will pay for it. So I was in there, and there was a bunch of police officers sitting over there. And when the waitress came over to give me my bill for my coffee, I said, "Would you add their coffee, whatever they're having, onto my bill?" And Kurt, who's one of the deputies, he's been there for 33 years, he sees me, and he knows what I do, and he called out, "Father Tryphon, why don't you let me buy you your coffee today?" And he says, and then he says to the others, he says, "Our chaplain is always buying us coffee." And one of the guys was the guy that had almost given me a ticket. He didn't. I think he took pity on me because he figured, like, oh my God, this poor old guy. So he didn't give me a ticket. But I remember as I was driving off, I thanked him for stopping me and caring enough that he was doing his job. I'd like to get some kind of interaction going about what you think about some of the things that I've said. And if there are ideas that you've had or questions that you've had. First of all, I want to tell you that there are a number of police officers in this room.
All right, guys. If you all want to see or watch the rest of these, because we watched the beginning of these videos, we're going to get into the super chats now. And so if you guys want to watch the Q&A, feel free. Here is, again, video 1. This is a 2-part video. So we skipped the first half of this one, and now we are skipping the second half of this one. So if you guys would like to watch the Q&A section of this particular Abbot Tryphon presentation, you can do so with the link right here. So we are going to dive into some of these super chats. I hope everybody has enjoyed today's stream. And again, the point was for Abbot Tryphon, new member of Patristic Faith. Shout out to Father Deacon. Shout out to Che. Shout out to the fellow apologist over on Patristic Faith. Here, let me, again, for those of you who weren't with us in the beginning, Patristic Faith is the new apologetic site for online orthodoxy, of which we see Abbot Tryphon has just joined us. And so make sure you go over to patristicfaith.com, patristicfaith.com. As you can see, Abbot Tryphon, David the Real Medwhite, myself, Father Deacon Dr. Ananias, Father John Whiteford, Father Spiridon Bailey, Jay Dyer, Michael Witkoff. And so we are creating over at Patristic Faith. Again, special thank you goes to Father Deacon Dr. Ananias for his efforts in putting all this together, as we are putting together a sort of online Orthodox apologetics team. And Abbot Tryphon was one of the most recent members as of yesterday, an official new member of Patristic Faith. And so today's stream was really wanting to get into the Orthodox life as lived. That, again, my contribution to whatever this larger enterprise is, and I'm humbled that Father Deacon has asked me to join such a great team. It's very intellectual, it's very heady, it's very academic, whether it be theology, whether it be sort of Orthodox spirituality, whether it be critical analysis of these other traditions. And I wanted to play Abbot Tryphon because one of the ways he's impacted me so much is talking about orthodoxy as lived, being a Christ in the midst. And some of the stories that we heard of, whether it be him dealing with the gentleman, the young man who was getting ready to commit suicide out in the middle of nowhere in the woods, whether it be the people who mock him as he's at the coffee shop because he's dressed as a Christian monk, his response. There's great stories that he didn't even get into. One was, and I don't know if they're in these two videos or not, but a couple stories that we didn't hear that I really love of Abbot Tryphon. One is him staying somewhere, I think it's almost like an apartment complex, and there's one woman who just won't give him the time of day. She's giving him the cold shoulder. He asks her how she's doing. She kind of like rolls her eyes, turns her head, won't even acknowledge who he is. And he decides one day while he is at the grocery store that they're having a sale. They're having a sale on flowers. And so he decided, you know what, I'm going to buy a bouquet of roses, a bouquet of beautiful flowers, and I'm going to give them to this woman who basically acts like I don't exist, clearly doesn't appreciate or like me. And so he went and he sat out on her stoop. And I think the way you described it, a couple hours goes by. Eventually she comes home from work and she walks up to her apartment. She walks up to the building I think they're all staying in. And she sees Abbot Tryphon, and she's already kind of rolling her eyes. And, oh, gosh, what's this guy doing? And he presents her with this bouquet of roses, of which, again, she has treated him terribly up to this point. And he said, I was in the grocery store, and I saw these flowers, and I thought they were very beautiful, and they reminded me of you because you're beautiful, and I just wanted you to have them. And she was kind of dumbfounded. And she took the flowers from him and goes into her apartment, and he kind of rescinds back up to his apartment. I think he's on like the second story, and he says a few minutes later, somebody's knocking at the door. He goes to the door, and it's her, and she's in tears. And she's saying that it's been years since anybody's bought me flowers, and it's been years since anybody's told me I'm beautiful. I just wanted to say thank you. And that is a being Christ in the midst. And that's why the Orthodox, it's so much more difficult than just responding based on our passions. Again, I'm not there yet. And another example of a story that I thought was really touching is he was sitting at breakfast at a cafe, and he saw this old woman. She had been in her late 80s, maybe early 90s, sitting by herself, and he could see how she just wanted somebody to talk to, and that the waitress would come by and she would try to small talk with her, but the waitress was busy, and so she had to move on. She had to go talk. She had to go work, and the old lady just sat there, and all she had was a cup of coffee. And Abbot Tryphon, eventually the waitress comes over to him and he says, "Can you put her bill on mine?" And again, just like the story he talked about with the police officers, and she gets up to leave. She goes to pay for her bill, and they say, "Oh, don't worry, it's already been paid for," because Abbot Tryphon doesn't want her to know who paid for it. And this old lady, I mean, she's got to be, again, you can imagine like a woman hunched over, lonely. Imagine that her husband has died. She lives by herself. She's just looking for human contact. She finds out that somebody paid for her breakfast. And again, she didn't have much because she didn't have much money. And she begins to cry. She cries and then she turns around as she's getting ready to walk out of the diner and said that I've been coming here for, I forget how many years, 40-some years, and nobody has bought me breakfast. And I just want to say thank you to whoever has done it, with a face full of tears. And that makes the difference. That is apologetics. And so when we think about our Orthodox apologetics, it can come in a multitude of ways. You don't have to be a dyer. Not all of us are gifted with the abilities and the opportunities to read all these books and have the cognitive and intellectual facility to understand and then to articulate and to debate. That's not all of our calling. And that's not how all of us can be great apologists. The most effective way is not to get on here and ramble about topics like I do. The most effective thing you could do is try to be more like Christ and try to be a conduit for God's mercy in the world. And by doing that, you're going to touch people in their heart. And by doing that, you're going to bring people to the faith. And for those of us who are way more intellectual, well, that's what, again, I'm trying to do. That's what I know Father Deacon and Jay and Brother Augustine, we bring ideas, we build intellectual bridges, and we're doing our best. I'm struggling my butt off to try to be a good Orthodox Christian, but all of us can do apologetics by the way we live our lives, by the way we communicate to other people, by the way we deal with adversity, by the way we deal with people who don't want to give us the time of day. And that's the hardest thing to do. And that's really the most effective thing you can do. Just like the two young men that Abbot Tryphon talked about that mocked him. Oh, you'd have to be some dumb old man to still believe in God, as he sits there in the coffee shop by himself on his computer. And me, I would have turned around. I would have had a quip. I would have had said something. I would have tried to, again, humiliate them intellectually about where they're at or how dumb they are. And what he does is he goes and buys them a gift card. And he has the barista give it to him when he leaves. And he says no words to them. He never responds to their attempt to humiliate him publicly. And by doing that, he reached their heart. And if I were to turn around and start rambling on about how dumb I think they are, you're not going to reach the heart. It would just have been a back and forth. And so I hope today's stream then is a lesson for all of us that we are all apologists. We're all conduits of God in the world. And we need to realize that we have these opportunities to be little Christ. That's what it means to be a Christian. That's what it means to be an Orthodox Christian. And I think if all of us, if again, as men, as women, but as Orthodox men, if our reputation was, wow, those guys are really sharp intellectually, those guys, yeah, they're very masculine, they're very traditional, they're very good, but also they're great people. What more will bring men and women to the faith, especially if we are in the end times, if we're nearing that? Who knows what's going on, in history? Who knows where we're at in the point of history? But if we really want to help people, if we really want to bring more people to the faith, I think this is one of the best things all of us can do. All of us can do. So that was the point of today's stream. Again, I know I didn't really get on here and lecture much. I kind of let Abbot Tryphon tell his stories because when you listen to these stories, the biggest takeaway I had, and this is why I wanted to share it with you guys in a stream like today, is you realize how difficult it is to be Orthodox. You realize how difficult it is to be a Christian. That the Ubermensch types, the Nietzschean critics of Orthodoxy or Christianity as being weak, right? It creates weak men. All those martyrs, they're weak. And at the same time, okay, so let's say you're in some type of Nietzschean 19th century German understanding of the Ubermensch, and somebody come up and they want to mock you about XYZ, again, for him being at the coffee shop, about being Christian. What's more effective, and what's more difficult? Of course, Nietzsche was, get into his life, he was a simp. I don't know if you guys know, Nietzsche tried to propose to a woman 3 times. She rejected him. Nietzsche, again, the only time she had a sexual advance towards him, it says, well, if you and your friend, she was open to a threesome. And the same woman who was open to the threesome, he tried to propose to 3 times. She rejected him all 3 times. She ended up leaving with his friend. This was like the biggest, romantic relationship Nietzsche ever had. Nietzsche was a bit of a simp. Nietzsche was a weak man. Nietzsche didn't have much of a physical presence. And so you see the Ubermensch as like this overcompensation, whereas you look at somebody like an Abbot Tryphon, you look at what the Orthodox faith calls us to, and it's way more difficult to smile at somebody when they're degrading you, when they're trying to humiliate you, when they're criticizing you. And at the same time, speak truth when that's necessary. But to affect people at the level of their heart, as somebody said, heart-level jujitsu, that is the most difficult part of this whole journey. And that's the part where all of us are equal, right? Doesn't matter how many books I read back here about Orthodoxy. Doesn't matter how many philosophy texts or how many understandings I know about Western esotericism. I'm at the same level as any of you guys when it comes to living the faith out, trying to touch people where their heart is. That's one of the most difficult things. And so we're all in the same place. We're all in the same boat. And somebody who may not read at all may be the best embodiment of Orthodoxy. They may be the best apologists because they live the faith. And so I think that was the point of today's stream. That's the point of Abbot Tryphon's stories that I wanted to share with you. That's the point, again, and patristic faith. That is his angle on apologetics. And at the same time, that's what makes patristic faith so wonderful. So make sure you go over to patristicfaith.com, support patristic faith. Tell Father Deacon how thankful you are for what he's doing, because not all of us can be Jay Dyer, and thank God we have patristic faith for Jay to do what he does. He's incredible at what he does. Jay Dyer brought me to Orthodoxy. He aided in my understanding through my own journey. And then you have Abbot Tryphon there to share people about the lived apologetics of Orthodoxy. And then, then you have Father Spiridon Bailey and his wonderful videos. Again, another member of Patristic Faith. So thank you. Make sure everybody goes over and subscribe to the Norwegian News, and give a congratulations and a thanks to Father Deacon and what he's doing with online orthodoxy and the world of apologetics, and how he wants to build the faith up, spread the faith, and support all of us in our own ministries, all of our own online content creation. And so God bless every member of Patristic Faith. Everybody, again, has their own angle on trying to share this wonderful tradition with the world. And this is really the first time in history that the world can actually hear and learn and see about orthodoxy. So this is a great opportunity. And so all of us, when we think about living the faith, then have a sort of dog in the fight of perpetuating the faith out into the world, that we have to take this online community and make it real. It has to be three-dimensional. It has to be incarnational, just like Christ. Go to the church, find a parish, find a spiritual family to belong to, and then try to live it out the best you can, because we're all going to fail. I come up short all the time. I'm sure Abbot Tryphon will be the first to tell you, we all come up short, but you have to just keep going. And that's why then orthodoxy is not easily a consumeristic identity, right? This isn't me getting a bunch of Ganesha statues. This isn't me getting, wearing beads or doing all this different stuff for the symbolism of being holy. This is about actually living this life, and that's how you stay on the horse. So I just wanted to share that with everybody, and that was the point of today's stream. So God bless everybody. Hope everybody has a Merry, Merry, Merry Christmas. And let's dive into some of these super chats. So thank you, everybody, for the super chats. I really, really appreciate it. And so let's see what the first one is here. I want to say somebody super chatted at the end of the stream last time. I got off and I didn't have a chance to respond. So special shout out to Cody Bruce. Said, great show, brother. Keep them coming. So thank you very much, Cody Bruce. I appreciate it, brother. I apologize, wasn't able to get to your super chat last time. So first super chat then today comes from Chad Bombadil. And so thank you so much, Chad Bombadil. He throws in a super chat at $10 and says, thank you for all you do. Merry Christmas and God bless you and your family. Well, thank you very much, Chad. I know that you had some circumstances surrounding the stabby mandate, so I hope everything has worked out. God bless you, your wife, and your children, your three children, brother. I hope everything is going well. And Merry Christmas to you guys. Hope you enjoy the season. And I hope you enjoyed the stream. So thank you very much for your support, Chad. I really appreciate it. Next super chat comes from one of our Orthodox sisters, Tatiana. And Tatiana throws in a super chat and says, Abbot Tryphon helped me through a tough time a year ago. I have often been depressed over what's become of society. I still struggle, but I know God wins. God bless, and please pray for me. Orthodoxy is life. So everybody, please pray for Tatiana. What a wonderful super chat. Thank you so much, Tatiana, for your support. Again, Tatiana says, Abbot Tryphon helped me through a tough time a year ago. I've often been depressed over what's become of society. Well, no wonders. It is a tough pill to swallow, metaphorically and literally. But I know God wins. Amen, he does. God bless, and please pray for me. So everybody, please pray for Tatiana. If you guys have prayer lists, write down the name. Please pray for Tatiana. So please pray for Tatiana. All right. Well, thank you so much, Tatiana. God bless you and your family. Really glad to see you back in the community. Haven't seen you around in a while, so I hope everybody's doing well, and Merry Christmas. Mr. Miner throws in a super chat. Thank you so much, Mr. Miner. And he says, thank you for all you do. Have a Merry Christmas and God bless. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Miner. I really appreciate the support. Merry Christmas to you and yours, and hope everything is going well. God bless you guys. And again, thank you for supporting Church of the Eternal Logos. I really appreciate it. Next super chat comes from Ronald Angel, welcome. Ronald, he is a friend at this point. We stay in contact quite regularly. Thank you so much, Ronald, for your support, brother. He says, best wishes for a 10,000 subscriber Christmas. That is right. Guys, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. We are on our way. We're on our march to 10,000 subs for Church of the Eternal Logos. I hope it'd be wonderful if we could make it before Christmas. But if you guys don't know anybody, or if you do know somebody rather who might be interested in some of the content, please share the videos. Have them maybe subscribe. Hopefully, we can get to a 10,000 subscriber mark before the end of the year. That would be definitely a goal of mine. That was the goal, is to reach 10,000 before 2022. So we're not too far away. Let me see. The official count right now is 9,865. So just a little over 100 subscribers. But hopefully 135 more, we can reach 10,000. So thank you very much, Ronald, for the support. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not. Would greatly appreciate it. Next super chat comes from Michael and Maria. Thank you, Michael and Maria. Wonderful, wonderful friends down in the Great South. God bless you and your kids. Hope your son is still on his way to Orthodoxy. She says, keep up the great work. Enjoyed the book club last night. Yes, we had a great conversation with this book right here, The Master and Margarita. We were going over chapter 6 through 12. He said, enjoyed the book club last night. Looking forward to next session. I peeked into the next chapter and some good stuff in the, quote, hero chapter. Well, I can't wait to dive into it. I have not read chapter 13 yet, Michael and Maria, so I am looking forward to diving into it. But thank you guys so much for joining the book clubs. Thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you for watching the streams. I really, really appreciate it. And just God bless everybody who supports. I really appreciate everything. You guys make this go. So next super chat comes from the Orthodox Logos. Shout out to Schema Beats. Shout out to the Orthodox Logos. Go subscribe to the Orthodox Logos. He's got a wonderful magazine. My gosh, Ian is doing great work for the community. So the Orthodox Logos throws in $10 and says, God bless, brother. Hope you're doing well. Package is sent, but me and Sierra wanted to donate a little tonight. It's not much, but just wanted to say thanks for all you do. Talk soon. Well, thank you so much, Ian, brother. I truly shout out to you and Sierra and the kids. God bless you guys. And thank you for everything you're doing, man. Again, reach out to the Orthodox Logos. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel. Ian is putting together an Orthodox magazine. Guys, this is how we build community. What Father Deacon Doctor is doing with Patristic Faith, what Ian is doing with the Orthodox magazine. Guys, this is how we do it. This is how we move forward. And so making all this online stuff incarnational in our actual lives. So thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate it. And so thank you very much, Ian. Schema Beat, the Orthodox Logos. Go subscribe. He says, God bless, brother. Hope you're doing well. Package is sent, but me and Sierra wanted to donate a little tonight. Well, thank you guys so much. It's not much. It's still just, it's enough. Thank you very, very much. But wanted to say thanks for all you do. Thank you guys for all the support. Talk soon. Absolutely will. Next super chat comes from, Nathaniel Hill. Good buddy. He says, Theosis TV when? I think sooner rather than later. Again, I think Theosis TV could be a federated page on PeerTube where we can, again, bring all of our videos together. Something I'm definitely going to be doing on my webpage is have a decentralized, federated video live stream option over on the website. And so I'll be talking with Nathaniel about maybe we can put something together and maybe soon, again, guys, keep your fingers crossed, keep supporting all our content creators, but it's very possible that in the near future, you'll be able to go to theosis.tv and you'll be able to have access to all of our videos. So who knows? Who knows? That could be, again, pray about it, but support our content creators, support Dyer, support Witkoff, support Father Deacon, support John Whitford, support Father Peter here, support Abbot Tryphon, support Father Spiridon Bailey. And who knows where all this can be in a year from now? You know, again, it's exciting. It's exciting as they want to reset society. We can reset Orthodox online apologetics, and so this is an exciting time, guys. And you are a part of it. We're all part of this community. So, it's very, very, very exciting times. Thank you, Nathaniel. Shout out to you and your beautiful family, brother. I hope you're doing well. Look forward to chatting with you tomorrow. God bless you and your wife. Thank you very much. Next super chat comes from John Down Under. John Down Under says, become a member. $5 is nothing to have someone else working on your behalf, saving souls and bringing the lost home to the Orthodox Church. We're all apologists, but some are better at it. Support them. Well, thank you so much, John Down Under, brother. I really appreciate the shout out for the membership. If anybody would like to become a website member, again, it's a great way to support Church of the Eternal Logos. It's $5 a month. You have access to an exclusive video library of different video content. I would be greatly appreciative. It's one of the best ways to support the work, to support what I'm doing here. You can use either PayPal or your credit card, and if you would prefer just a one-time fee, you just want to pay for a one-year membership, you can go ahead and donate $60, $5 a month, and then I will set up your account manually, and then you'll have access to log in for a year, or you can just set up the month-to-month option. So whatever you guys prefer, but it'd be a great way to support. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you very much, John Down Under, for supporting. Thank you for even putting that in your super chat. I really appreciate it. And I hope that everybody who's got memberships, again, I got a lot of great videos. You like what I do over here on YouTube? It's basically the exact same thing. It's just exclusive videos over on the website. And that's the business. That's how, again, whether it be Dyer or Patristic Faith or anybody else, this is how we build a business. It's just $5. And it means so much. So it means so much to all of us content creators and actually building something. So really appreciate it, John Down Under. Thank you very much, brother. Next super chat comes from Black Ortho Acolyte. Thank you very much, Black Ortho Acolyte, throwing in $5 and says, love the format for tonight's show. Was awesome listening to Abbot Tryphon in a group like this. Also, congrats on getting Patristic Faith up and running. Do you think there's any chance Roosh will be added to the roster? I'm not sure. I really don't talk much to Roosh, so I'm not too sure about him. If anybody is more closely, you can ask Father Deacon. Father Deacon would be able to tell you a little bit better about any of those conversations. But yeah, what we're doing over on Patristic Faith, I am honored and humbled to be a part of apologists like Dyer, like Father Deacon, like Whitcoff, Father Spiridon Bailey, Abbot Tryphon. I believe Father Peter Hears has joined already or is going to join, or maybe not. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn. Father John Whiteford. So really appreciative of being part of such a great group of guys. So I'm excited for the future, and I'm excited for online Orthodox apologetics, that's for sure. But I really appreciate it, Black Ortho Acolyte. Again, he throws in a super chat and said, love the format for tonight's show. Well, thank you. I'm glad you appreciated it. Was awesome listening to Abbot Tryphon in a group like this. It was. And that's why I wanted to share that with you guys, just to listen to Abbot Tryphon in his wisdom about the lived Orthodox life. And also, he said, congrats on getting Patristic Faith up and running. Yes, this was the brainchild of Father Deacon back when we did Montanica. So back when we did Montanica in August, he was already setting this stuff up. He'd already put a lot of headspace and energy into this project, and now it's finally come to fruition. It's become incarnational, if you will. And so major shout out to Father Deacon. He says, do you think there's any chance Roosh will be added to the roster? I'm not sure. You have to talk to Father Deacon about that. So, but thank you very much, Black Ortho Acolyte, for contributing, for supporting Church of the Eternal Logos. I really appreciate it. Next super chat comes from Jared Fetzer, and he says, hey, DPH, just wanted to say I really enjoyed the stream. Nice change of pace and just looking at living the Orthodox life. Just got the membership. It is fantastic. Can't wait to do a one-on-one in January. Well, thank you so much, Jared. It was fun doing the one-on-one we just did. And so really appreciative. Thank you for becoming a member. I really, really appreciate it, brother. And thank you for throwing in a super chat here. I am incredibly thankful for the support. And I look forward to chatting again in January. It should be a fun time, just like the last one. So Jared Fetzer says again, hey, DPH, just wanted to say I really enjoyed the stream. Nice change of pace and just looking at living the Orthodox life. Just got the membership. It is fantastic and can't wait to do a one-on-one in January. So thank you so much, Jared, for getting a membership. Again, if anybody's interested in that, please become a member. And that looks like that is the last super chat. So again, I want to give a special thank you to everybody that contributed today. Chad Bombadil, thank you very much. He said, thank you for all you do. Merry Christmas and God bless you and your family. God bless you and your family and Merry Christmas to you, Chad. Hope everybody's doing well. Tatiana, our good Orthodox sister, said, Abbot Tryphon helped me through a tough time a year ago. I have often been depressed over what's become of society. Well, it's hard not to. I still struggle, but I know God wins. Amen. God bless, and please pray for me. Hashtag Orthodoxy is life. Amen to that, guys. Please keep Tatiana in your prayers this evening. Again, her name is Tatiana. Keep her in your prayers this evening. Next super chat, again, special thank you to Mr. Miner, and he said, thank you for all you do. Have a Merry Christmas and God bless. Thank you very much, Mr. Miner, for throwing in $20. And Ronald Angel said, best wishes for a 10,000 subscriber Christmas. I'm hoping. We still got a little over a week, but I don't know if we'll make 10,000 by Christmas. Maybe we'll make it by the New Year's, hopefully. And then a special thank you to Michael and Maria. Thank you guys for all your support. They say, keep up the great work. Enjoyed the book club last night. Looking forward to the next session. I am too. I peeked into the next chapter and some good stuff in the hero chapter. Well, I can't wait to read it. It's going to be fun. Thank you, Michael and Maria. God bless your family. God bless your son and his journey into Orthodoxy. And thank you guys for all the support. I really appreciate it. Shout out to Ian in Schema Beats. He said, Orthodox Logo said, God bless, brother. Hope you're doing well. Package is sent, but me and Sierra wanted to donate a little tonight. It's not much, but just wanted to say thank you for all you do. Thank you very much, Ian, and God bless you and Sierra and the kids. Hope everybody's doing well. And then Nathaniel Hill with the very generous super chat of $40 says, Theosis.tv win. Well, hopefully sooner rather than later. So thank you again, Nathaniel Hill, for your super chat and your support, brother. God bless you and your family and your beautiful, beautiful family and the kids. Next super chat comes from John Down Under, who donates 717 and says, become a member for $5 is nothing to have someone else working on your behalf, saving souls and bringing the lost home to the Orthodox Church. Thank you so much, John Down Under. He says, we're all apologists, but some of us are better at it. Support them. Well, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate the support and the super chat, and thank you for becoming a member. Really means a lot. Next one comes from Black Ortho Acolyte. Special shout out to you, brother, and says, love the format for tonight's show. Was awesome listening to Abbot Tryphon in a group like this. Also, congrats on getting Patristic Faith up and running. And so thank you very, very much, Black Ortho Acolyte. And then last one from Jared Fetzer. Thank you. Special shout out to you, brother. Hey, DPH, just want to say I really enjoyed the stream. Nice change of pace in just looking at living the Orthodox life. Just got a membership. It is fantastic. Can't wait to do a one-on-one in January. So thank you so much, Jared. God bless everybody. Have a very Merry Christmas. I'll be back Friday potentially. We do have a potential special guest. I'm still waiting to hear on a definite time. But Friday, I either have a great stream that I'm going to be presenting, or we may have a very special guest getting into a hot topic that I think everybody will be interested in. But so stay tuned. I will see you guys again Friday. Shout out to everybody who super chatted. Please become a member, and God bless everybody. Smash that like, and I will see you all next time. Until then, as always, God bless.